I identify as queer, not in like a super proud way.
This is a place where I need more explanation.
The term lesbian felt way too like rigid.
I feel like a lot of people are potentially afraid to call themselves bisexual.
Maybe I could be a little bit bisexual.
I look gay. If I say I'm a lesbian, people are gonna be like, yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Show me how many lesbians you've dated.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
all lesbians are queer. There's hell of a lot of lesbians even who live very heteronormative lives.
Are lesbian trust issues warranted? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective Podcast. I'm your host, Carbon.
I'm Emily.
I'm King.
And I'm Tyra.
And welcome to the show. And this episode is sponsored by Vizzy Hard Seltzer and Field, but more on that later.
Whatever queer means to you, whether it's defiance, identity, or community, it carries a long, tangled, and powerful legacy. Queerness and queer theory is ever evolving, and in today's episode, we're going to cover it all. From queer as a gender and sexuality label, discussions on its vagueness, who can be queer, and I'll take you through its interesting history, and we'll discuss how we've seen the term evolve in front of our own eyes.
And we are so thrilled to welcome back friend of the pod and listener, fave, Tyra Blizzard. For those who are unfamiliar, Tyra is a professional basketball player, ball is life, who's breaking barriers in sport culture by showing that identity and self-expression have a place on the court. Off the court, they're a content creator whose work dives deep into gender, sexuality, race, and intersectionality. These themes also ground their work as community relations and social media manager at In Magazine, Canada's leading TWS LGBTQI+ digital publication and community platform, where they help amplify queer stories and spotlight underrepresented voices. Tyra is also the author of the Gender Sexuality Journal, a prompt-based book designed to help readers unlearn societal conditioning and explore identity freely. Tyra, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back.
Our next guest is King, also known as DJ Soundboi, who is a BIPOC, queer, non-binary creative whose work bridges music, identity, and community. With over 15 years behind the decks, Soundboi is known for high-energy sets, blending cultural rhythms and sounds, creating inclusive spaces that celebrate queer self-expression. Outside of music, King is also the founder of King Cuts, a barber studio offering gender-affirming haircuts in a safe, welcoming environment. Whether through sound or style, King's work centers joy, empowerment, and authenticity. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So for the both of you, you identify as queer, both as your gender and sexuality. Why did you choose that word?
I identify as queer, not in like a super proud way, because that's like what I'm, not that I'm not proud. I'm very
Not
proud.
proud.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm like, yes, I feel so confident in this label. I just kind of defaulted to it because I went through all the other ones and I was just like, whatever, let's just leave it at queer for now. I came out and I was bi-curious, and then I was pan, and I was 100% sure that I was pan. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm a lesbian, like 1,000% lesbian. Like we've talked about this on the pod before. Like I felt like that was, it's just too women-centric for me, even though it's not. You can still be non-binary and be a lesbian. We've had this conversation. To this day, I'll still get comments talking about how that's not true, whatever. But yes, you can be non-binary and be a lesbian. But for me, I couldn't separate the woman connotation with that. And being a women's basketball player on top of it, I just feel like I can never escape the women box. Like I went to go buy a basketball the other day for the first time ever in my life. They're so expensive, by the way.
What do you mean you went to buy the first one ever in your life?
Because like usually I just
Always provided.
given to me,
They're always provided, yeah.
and then mine was bruised, and I had to go get one.
right.
I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
So I go to Sport Check, and I'm like, I go up to the guy, and I'm like, do you have a women's basketball? I have to specify, because if I just say basketball, they're gonna give me a men's ball, which is too big. So I'm just constantly reminded that like I'm a woman, you know, within a sporting context, and to be a lesbian on top of that, I was just like, I just can't, especially
Right.
because of how I present. Like,
And being non-binary, it feels like really
I don't know,
disconnected. Or do you feel non-binary?
I chose genderqueer to represent my gender because I just didn't feel non-binary enough, which is ridiculous because there is no look to being non-binary, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had this kind of like imposter syndrome, because in my mind I was like, you're too femme to be non-binary.
Right.
And it sucks that I felt that way and still kind of do feel that way a little bit.
I read you as non-binary.
Oh, thank you.
Me
So
too.
much
Me
to
too.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Whatever, queer, sure,
Right.
but it's way too vague. Like I'm sure we'll talk about that after, but I just feel like it is too vague, but I'm just kind of tired of trying to figure it out, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Just pure exhaustion, honestly. Yeah. Just an overthinker.
I used to identify as a lesbian, but then as I started kind of coming into my non-binary identity and like discovering even that term to use, it felt like a lot more fitting. I just started to feel like the term lesbian felt way too like rigid, and I'm attracted to all queer people, like even just using non-binary and queer versus like lesbian. I just think it kind of only confines you to thinking that you're only dating women, you know?
Right.
So I'm just like, yeah.
And did you feel like you came into a place where you thought you might be interested in like queer men?
I feel like I would date trans, non-binary, like studs, femmes, like all of it. But it's more, it has to be like an emotional thing for me too. Like definitely lean more demi. They are very demi, but I feel like I also fall under that. So for me, it's like if I had the right emotional connection with somebody, then 100% I'd be open to it for sure. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Like I don't have that like boundary where I'm like, oh, like I would never, like I think my firm boundary is like just like no like hetero anything. Like I couldn't do it. Like no cis hetero people. Yeah. Like I'm good. Like, it has to be under like the queer umbrella of like dating anybody. Yeah.
And do you think the gender exploration was like the key to expanding your sexuality preferences as well?
When I was only identifying as a lesbian, I think that my gaze was more just towards like masc presenting women and femmes. And that was even hard because at the time that I was growing up, there was so much shame around any masc presenting women that like wanted to date other like studs or anyone that was also masc presenting. I definitely didn't allow that to stop me. I was just more like, okay, y'all are weird. I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna like still like express like who I'm attracted to. And I felt like I always had a lot of pushback on that, a lot of judgment.
Why is that?
It was
Like,
just
what do you think the shame was?
I think that honestly, I think it kind of falls into like the heteronormative way of thinking, like the traditional like men and women, and like there can only be one masculine person and one feminine person in like a relationship. I feel like that leaks in and bleeds into like our queer community, and like just unlearning that sometimes doesn't happen even after you come out, you know?
Yeah.
And like I think that work sometimes they forget to do that, and then they fall into like projecting the same hate that they received when they were also like not out of the closet or
Was this messages that you were getting from other people, or do you feel like it was internalized?
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah.
Like people would like tell me to my face like, oh, that's like some gay shit, that's some homo shit, or they would just be like, that looks so gross. Like it was just like a lot of like very direct hating of like, because there were times where I was dating like masc presenting people, and I'm very like, I show public affection. I'm not somebody that's like, you know, it's very obvious if I'm dating somebody. So yeah, even if just walking down the street, like in the community, like I've had people like send me messages after being like, oh, like that, you guys looked so weird walking down the street holding hands and like just stuff like that.
Whoa.
So yeah, but that was like, this was a while ago, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like probably in my like early 20s, and I'm like 35 now. So yeah, that kind of kept me in a space of just only having a gaze towards like, you know, masc presenting women and femmes. And then as I started learning more about the non-binary label, because that didn't come out and like started becoming a term, I feel like until I want to say like maybe the past like 6 years. It's pretty new still from like my knowledge. So yeah, that started feeling like way more of a term that felt so much more fitting to me and how I identified, because I always leaned on both sides. Like I felt like I had such a like equal balance between masculine and feminine energy, and I always expressed that really freely. So for me, I'm like, this feels like the right, you know, term. Whoever I find attractive is okay. Like there's no one should be telling me it's like weird because you present this way or you present that way. Like it should always be date who you want, love who you want, you know?
100%.
That's like what we're fighting for always. So
I think for me, I had a similar experience where it was our conversation, honestly, that made me realize I was non-binary. Like the question,
that's dope.
Thank you.
Oh,
But
wait, that was it?
yeah, I mean, it was many experiences, obviously, all coming together, but it was us unpacking like what a man and a woman actually means, and like really questioning that, and me feeling like, no, actually, that's not how I feel. But it definitely did call into question like my sexuality, and also the way that I see masculinity within myself too, and allowing that to come out.
Yeah.
Because I was putting myself in such a firm box, like I am a feminine person, and it sounds like you're struggling with that a little bit as well too, Tyra. Of like, it's like, this is how maybe the box that I feel society has put me in, but not everyone actually sees me that way. Like, and I've had conversations with friends, and I feel like you'd probably have conversations with friends too, where it's like people are like, no, I see you're masculine. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I see it. Like I see you're masculine.
I see it all the time.
Yeah,
I see it all the time. I tell them all the time. Yeah.
100%. I had a similar experience too, when I first came out, I was only dating masc presenting women, because I was like, I'm femme, I'm submissive, that's all I can be.
Yeah.
But it's so limiting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just that.
Yeah.
And also, like, a mass presenting lesbian isn't just that either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're not just gonna be dominant.
Yeah.
100%. There are a lot of softies, actually.
Yeah. And it feels like you're shutting off a side of yourself and kind of like it's just like dormant and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
it needs to come back to life.
There's also debates about like the vagueness of the word queer. Do we feel like it's too open-ended to just say like, I'm queer, period, don't ask me any more questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel very passionately
Yeah.
about this. We were talking.
Yeah, we were.
You're like, as someone doing it? Yeah.
Yes. And that goes back to the history of the word. I'm sure you'll get into some of the details, but for slight context, the word was initially reclaimed by white activists and academics in like the late 80s, early 90s. And the reason I have to specify that it was reclaimed by white people is because of the way that whiteness operates. Like, it's a system of homogenization. It's an assimilative construct. So essentially everything that whiteness touches almost gets erased in a sense. It's like all the flavor gets boiled out, kind of. You know
not
what
the
I mean?
flavor.
The flavor's gone.
Damn.
So cultural diversity, ethnic differences, all of that kind of gets erased and absorbed into one dominant norm, essentially. So that's why, like, example, Irish immigrants, Italian immigrants for the longest time weren't considered white until they were absorbed into the label. And now whiteness as it operates today, like, you don't have to specify anything. The reason why I feel like the term queer is so vague is because when it was reclaimed by white queer people, all of the nuances that exist within our identities were kind of erased with that. So race, class, culture, spirituality, like, all of that kind of disappeared and we're all like under this one umbrella, which is great. But that's why Black folk, racialized people, indigenous people didn't follow suit in the same way. And many still don't identify with that label. And that's exactly why when you read our bios at the beginning, like King, it specifically said Black, queer, non-binary, et cetera. Like, there was a need to add that specification, and we talked about it the other day, and like they didn't even necessarily notice that that was the case. And even for me, like, I always have to say Black, queer.
Yeah.
But you, Emily, for example, like, have you ever written like white queer podcast host like in your bio?
Not specifically.
Yeah, and like most don't, because like it's not necessary to do that, because I feel like it's not that queer is like a white term. It's not, but it is intentionally vague, and it doesn't necessarily encompass all of our individual experiences, which is why I need an additional specifier, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could talk about this forever, but like that's kind of the gist of why I feel like it is too vague. But like, what other term do we really have? We could say sapphic, sure, but again, like, same kind of issues. So, yeah.
I really appreciate your take. I definitely didn't even consider the fact that it was just white queers reclaiming it and what kind of impact that does specifically have. But do you notice like a lot of people in the Black community are just using the term queer?
I feel like we don't really have these conversations, like, unless we're doing a podcast or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're not really having to
Analyzing
explain our
it,
identities to each other, because we congregate in queer spaces that we just know are queer spaces. So it's like, I don't really ever have to like say to anyone that I'm queer unless I'm talking to like a straight person or like I'm
You're not explaining
analyzing
yourself.
queer theory or like something like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it really doesn't come up very often. So like, I don't really know. If you,
I don't know. I feel like in terms of the Black queer community, like, I think it's more, I feel like I hear more like stud, mask presenting, and they kind of just only separate it between like if you're femme or if you're mask. But like, I don't normally feel like I hear it as frequent where like they're like, I'm queer. You know what I mean?
yeah, I feel like within the Black community specifically, I hear more lesbian and sapphic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's slightly less, I don't want to say that that's, I don't know if that's true necessarily, but I feel like there is less freedom for us to explore our genders because of how we've grown up historically, because of our, you know, Caribbean parents or African parents or whatever. So it's just like, I feel like we take a bit longer in general to even get to the point of being able to explore the queer label. Right. And we're kind of still existing within the boxes in a sense. So I feel like I meet way more like Black lesbians or like Black bisexuals. They're like, yep, this is my identity 100%. It's rare that I've met people who are like, I don't really know what I got going on, honestly. Like, I'm just queer. Yeah, it's
I see a lot of white people saying I'm just queer.
For
Like, I
sure.
will say that.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think on dating apps, I see it a lot of people just writing queer. And I'm like, this is a place where I need more explanation. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. I'm like, what are we going to do with that?
Yeah, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? by that? What kind
Like,
of queer?
what's included? I think the vagueness for me, it bothers me in some ways. It's up to each individual person what you want to do. But I think for me, I feel like a lot of people are potentially afraid to call themselves bisexual. Like, does it
Absolutely.
point to like a bit of biphobia?
A lot of biphobia. I
Yeah.
guess.
And maybe like there's this fear to move away from the lesbian label for a lot of people. And I think there is lots of people who are attracted to all genders, but feel uncomfortable actually admitting that.
I don't know if you guys saw, but like recently, 2 people that used to identify as lesbians that were like, never mind, I'm queer or bisexual. They get a lot of hate. Yeah, Fletcher and JoJo Siwa.
Yeah.
They get a lot of hate from just like lesbians in general who have never met this person. They're not dating them.
Yeah.
So, but they're like, how could you betray us? Like, this is everything that's wrong with like, you know, the lesbian label or the community or whatever.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we lost another one, like as if they're yours to claim.
As if they're lost though, like as if they're not part of the queer community, as if you're not still a queer person. And
Right.
my problem is I think a lot of people who get into woman-loving woman relationships, they'll call themselves lesbian out of like comfortability and like acceptance.
Yeah.
But it's like there's actually a lot of bisexual identifying people who are in relationship with women.
Yeah.
But they just aren't identifying that way.
Yeah.
Because of that like disconnect from community, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Although for some of them, maybe bisexual doesn't make sense. Depending on
Yeah.
your understanding of the word. There's so many nuances.
Yeah.
But I do think it also comes down to your understanding of each word and what you feel actually speaks to you.
I will say bisexual can seem binary to people. I've heard that complaint of like, well, I'm attracted to non-binary people.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, can someone non-binary be bisexual? Is that what you're
am.
saying? Yeah.
And like my partner is non-binary as well, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's more than one gender is what the definition of bisexual is. You're attracted to more than one gender.
Yeah.
non-binary people, I don't know, kind of fuck it, not fuck everything up, but it just they, not in that way, but like in a great way of like it confuses everyone, even within the queer space. There's this ongoing debate of like, can non-binary people be considered under the trans umbrella? Like, can you be non-binary and a lesbian? Like every time we mention non-binary, people start to freak out because they're like, well, this like just
All
kind
the
of breaks
rules.
down all
What
the
about the
rules.
rules?
Yeah.
Exactly, like they're breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
So I think that's why like people get upset when they're like, okay, well, I have this definition. Bisexual means men and women, and non-binary people, like they're not within that, so like they can't identify. Same with lesbian. It's like, okay, it's only women, and then you mention non-binary people, and like, well, now it doesn't make any sense, and now I'm all confused.
Yeah.
Or trans
So-
women, and you're like, no.
Yeah,
That-
it's like, no.
but no.
And it makes
Yeah.
people feel like they can't be a lesbian anymore either, but it's like everything can be more expansive than that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But it does have you questioning it too, so.
I'm. I mean, because exactly. Like
Yeah.
I think we all have experiences as queer people of like slowly dismantling our understanding of like our prior understanding of ourselves and like moving away from like this heteronormative framework that we're constantly living in. And then once you feel like you figured it out, you realize like, oh shit, I'm still in the boxes. Like every time you break out of one, there's like another one and another one, another one. You're like, damn.
Yeah.
So once you reach that point of just like being fully like outside of all of the boxes, you're like, there's no rules to ground me. Now I feel like I'm confused. I'm floating in space. And then there's like this process of learning to accept that and understanding that like maybe there just isn't an answer, which humans in general hate.
We're constantly searching, especially non-binary people are searching for terms that feel open and expansive and free.
Yeah.
And I think that like queer right now, that's like the closest thing we have.
It does do that. It is very expansive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like if you don't
Which is
feel
why
like you
it's
want
so vague.
Yeah.
Like
it's like, yeah, it's both.
What is it? I don't know.
Right.
I think it's the best for when you don't feel like you want to explain yourself to someone. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
just queer.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Period. Bye.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
But are there some places or instances where it is important to describe these intersections? And I think yes.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
why did you name the podcast Queer Collective? Like, why was that the choice?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, it was your idea. So
I think for me, like I did want it to include everyone, you know, and that kind of is the whole mission of the podcast, is to literally represent every single intersection. And to me, it's not so much about erasing all of the intersections. It's being like, hey, we're all here together, but let's actually understand our differences, because that's so important. It's not like we're all the same, because we're not, but we should understand that. And we should understand how to interact with each other, you know?
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I feel like when we're talking about queerness from like an academic standpoint, doing podcasts or like, I don't know, Netflix series or something like that. Like when we're talking about queer theory, it makes sense to use that term. But when we're talking about our individual identities, that's where I feel like, those additional specifiers are necessary for some of us, because we're like, okay, I don't feel like this truly represents me. But if I'm talking queer theory, totally makes sense. But then there's differences in that. Like you can have a white person do like a whole Netflix series on queerness and never once mention race, like at all, ever. But for me, for you, like that's literally impossible. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna touch on like the I don't know the fuck Fletcher is. I'm gonna be so honest with you, but the JoJo Siwa, if we're gonna touch on it, because I'll
bring it up next
some
for
thoughts.
sure. I want to give the full quote.
Fletcher, honestly, I didn't know who they were.
I don't know who they are
A
either.
white person introduced her
I'm a
to
DJ
me.
and I'm like, I don't know who this
I
person is.
saw it on the Queer Love Ultimatum. Someone mentioned Fletcher as like their celebrity crush. I was like,
We were like, who?
Fletcher. Well, they were a lesbian icon until
Until recently.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by Vizzy Hard Seltzer.
Over the last 5 years, Vizzy has supported our mission to authentically and positively represent the entire LGBTQ2S+ community.
And with Vizzy's vibrant flavors, you can follow your own vibe. Be bold, be flavorful, and above all else, be yourself. Plus, Vizzy only has 100 calories and 1 gram of sugar per can.
Cheers! Must be of legal drinking age, and please enjoy responsibly.
And now, back to the episode.
So let's chat about the JoJo Siwa situation. Inside the Celebrity Big Brother UK house, she says, I've always told myself I'm a lesbian, and I think being here I've realized, oh, I'm not a lesbian, I'm queer, and I think that's really cool. This was in response to conversations she had in the house with queer drag queen Danny Beard. Unfortunately, this got wrapped up into her flirting with Chris Hughes on the show while she was still dating Kath Ebb, so I think it kind of made it even more negative. A lot of lesbians online are angry that someone who chose to once so vocally identify as a lesbian is now choosing to move away from the label. And I'm wondering, why do you think people are mad, and what's your take on the situation? We've never done internet gossip before.
we're like, I don't know these people. You didn't even know who JoJo Siwa
I thought
was.
you would, as like a TikToker.
No, I mean, I do now, but
I feel like sometimes you talk
for a
about
while I
like
didn't.
reality shows and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, Big Brother's so stressful. Honestly, so stressful to watch.
It's because of all the fluorescent lights.
Literally,
I could never.
that.
I could never.
Never.
Even Love
Same
Island,
with Love Island, I'm like,
so
that's
bad.
Neurodivergent for that.
Oh my god.
I'd always be in sunglasses, just like
I would be in a
I'm
corner
really
like this.
overstimulated right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. But yeah, I mean, I understand why lesbians are mad. I'm not saying I agree. I don't really care.
Right.
But I've experienced this as someone who was, you know, when I did come out as a lesbian, and I documented my entire queer journey. So like, of course I was able to see like the backlash of coming out as a lesbian and feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to be welcomed with open arms. I think we talked about this on the last pod too.
Yeah.
And that was not the case, like at all. I felt like I almost had to prove myself and kind of marinate in that label for a bit for people to be like, okay, you're one of us now. The first person I ever came out to was my ex at the time. And I was just like, oh my God, like not pan. Like I realized 100% I'm a lesbian. And deadass, their response immediately was, no, you're not. It's just a phase because you're dating me right now, but you're probably not. I was just like, that's insane. So then I went online after we broke up and I was like, guess what my ex said, guys? This is crazy. And the responses were 50-50. Like half of them were like, that's messed up. And then half of them were like, well, yeah, I mean, we don't trust it essentially.
Yeah.
And I feel
so
like
you have to have a track record.
Exactly.
Show me how many lesbians you've
Prove
dated.
it.
Yeah, that's wild.
Exactly. I feel like lesbians have this like collective trauma of, I don't know, messing around with like a straight girl who, you know, said she was lesbian, but she was actually really straight. Or, you know, dating someone who's bi. They break up and then they could date a man after and they're feeling like, oh, I was bamboozled. You were never a lesbian. Like you just wanted a guy the whole time. And I feel like there's this feeling of men have something that I don't have that they can provide you. I feel like they carry that trauma everywhere. So when they finally see someone, especially like in the public sector, in the public sphere, who identifies as a lesbian, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, like we have someone we can look up to. So there is that feeling of betrayal of like, you lied to us, even though it's like, it has nothing to do with you. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's so young.
She's a
like,
baby.
I think she's like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
JoJo Siwa?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
JoJo
really?
Siwa, and then the
Yeah.
other girl is very young, probably
I think
probably
she's
younger than
she's
us.
older
honestly.
than JoJo Siwa.
Older than
but-
JoJo Siwa, but probably younger than us. Possibly. I actually
Yeah.
don't know this girl at
Oh,
all.
you mean Fletcher?
Fletcher,
Oh,
yeah.
I have no idea about that.
One thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to quickly say, sorry, was just that like I came out when I was 15, but I've always been more masc presenting, and I just feel like what you experienced was
Yes.
more based on like if you're femme.
Yep.
Like and that's how you present.
Right.
Because
Perceived
like
as bisexual.
Yeah, if I look gay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like if I say I'm a lesbian, people are gonna be like, yeah, for sure.
No
like,
problem.
no one's gonna question
Yeah.
it just because of how I look, not because of my track record. You know what I mean?
You just say it, and people are like,
I do
no
feel like
further
that's more
questions.
of a femme experience, yeah, of like them not being believed right away.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's the femme
just wanted to
experience
mention
for
that
sure.
quickly. Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the whiteness aspect of things, because I also feel like I've seen so many videos on this of white queer people talking about how they have like 2 lesbian icons that exist in like the music, you know, entertainment
God.
sphere, and they're like, oh, we only had like 2 or 3, and now, you know, we have one less, and it's just like, the fuck, like,
What are you talking
what are you
about?
talking about? Like,
There's so many.
There's literally so many, but like they
Yeah.
genuinely
Yeah.
feel like there's 2 because they only listen to like white pop music. I'm
I
like,
feel like
Renee
people
Rapp and
didn't
JoJo
come at
Siwa. No,
Kehlani
literally.
like this. She was like, oh, like maybe I like girls. And
Yeah.
then she was like, I'm a lesbian. Then she was like, never mind, I'm pan. And then she was like, no, I'm a lesbian again.
Yeah.
People were probably following along, and maybe some people were like, what the hell's going on? But
Yeah.
for the most part, she
Didn't get
wasn't
that much
under
hate.
like public scrutiny like that.
No, she wasn't.
And it's like,
Yeah, I agree.
Kehlani's been here way before Fletcher or JoJo Siwa. And like, y'all
Yeah.
didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It might have just been different levels of fame. Like JoJo Siwa, I feel is like one of self-appointed. Like she does it to herself intentionally. Like I saw her call her daddy interview, and she like very much rides the cringe to fuel
Yeah.
her career, you know?
Yeah,
And she does
yeah.
it intentionally. But
sure.
she is definitely one of the most scrutinized people, and people really like to comment on her.
Yeah.
But my problem is like when I viewed that clip of her in the Big Brother house, I'm like, that's really dope. That's beautiful that you're like seeing that everything is more expansive and
Yeah.
not so binary. Everyone online, I felt like it was giving some biphobia, or some people, like a
Yeah.
lot of straight hetero people were being like, oh good, she's finally coming back, like she's not confused anymore. And it's like, that's
gosh.
gross. It's gross.
Wow.
It's giving just like
Yeah.
bi-erasure, biphobia.
Yeah.
And like I know she's not even identifying as bisexual. I don't know. It's just making it seem like you just can't enjoy both.
Yeah.
Or like you're still not queer if you
Yeah.
are in this straight passing relationship.
yeah,
You know?
it's the way that she did it as well.
Yeah.
If
It's
like
messy.
that's the thing, I feel like
Yeah.
she displayed on national TV
Yeah.
what not all lesbians, but so many lesbians
lot
fear of
yeah.
being literally cheated on left for a man. And
yeah.
then she did that.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, okay, first of all, you're giving us a bad name. Secondly, I have trauma with this, and now, you know, I'm projecting that onto you. You suck, you lied to us the whole time, whatever. Even though she is on her own journey, but it's
Yeah.
like, girl, you
Yeah.
didn't have to do all that.
I do feel like a lot of like celebrities, a lot of people in the public eye though are scared to come out as their certain sexuality or gender identity, because it's like, wow, now I have to hold up this presentation for everyone
And
like they're-
represent
but it's like,
everybody, yeah.
they're just a human being.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
like a 19-year-old person.
Yeah.
And, like imagine if you were in the public eye while you're trying to go through this whole gender and sexuality journey.
Yeah.
Like think about you have changed your own labels so many times. Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like everyone should have the same grace though to go through
Yeah.
that journey.
100%.
You
I mean,
know?
you can look up to people for sure, but to like hold them as this like pedestal icon that
Yeah.
can do no wrong is like
Yeah.
really. I mean, you're setting yourself up for disappointment no matter what, because
Yeah.
they're gonna fuck up at some point.
Everyone's human, and it's not even a fuck up. It's just like, oh, their experience wasn't exactly what your experience is. So some people refer to themselves as culturally queer. Can you be queer if you're straight and cisgender?
I don't think so, personally.
I'm gonna go with a hard no.
Let me
Yeah.
give some examples. Let me give some examples of people who would refer to themselves as
Okay.
culturally queer.
Who name
Say-
them?
Okay, so say that you were raised by 2 lesbian mothers and your whole life was very queer. You're surrounded by queer people. They brought you to the pride parades. Like everything about you feels very queer. You feel more comfortable around queer people, but you just so happen to be straight and cisgender. Or a situation where maybe you're polyamorous and like you're doing other things that feel like you are rejecting societal norms in like a really big way, but you again just so happen to be straight and cisgender.
I feel like that makes you an ally.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like strong allyship.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, because like you're not going and living the same struggles. Like you're not living the same struggles that queer people have to live and like be subjected to.
No.
It's not an easy path to take to stand in your truth like that. And I think that kind of just, there's a level of privilege when you walk out of a queer space that you're still gonna have that we don't have. Do you know what I mean? So I just personally don't think it's fair for like anyone to claim that.
Would you, as a white person, say that you're culturally black because you were raised by black parents? You wouldn't. So then why would you say that you're culturally queer if you're like, you know what I mean?
I think some people would
That's
say
the thing.
that.
Some people,
I think some people would say that.
People would probably say it, but they're probably going to
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of backlash because they're like, what do you mean? Like, you can feel that internally, sure, but that is not your lived experience. You're going to walk outside and however you're perceived is, you know, your lived experience. That's not ours. So to claim that, I feel is just, it's irresponsible and it's insensitive. And if you claim to be an ally and you really did your research and you really truly understood our community as you say you do, then you just wouldn't, you know?
I feel some bisexuals are culturally straight. Many probably are. And like they've maybe have never dated someone of the same sex and like they keep entire friend groups who are hetero and straight.
Oh, I see.
And they don't question any of these norms. They don't outwardly identify themselves as bisexual. They allow themselves to pass. Like they just don't claim any of it. You know what I'm saying?
Like they
Whereas,
don't do the work, you mean?
Yeah, where there's lots of bisexuals who do the work. Even if you're in a straight passing relationship, you still claim your queerness. And you own it in many ways. But I think there's like big differences to being culturally queer and not, and culturally straight.
Right. I think first qualifying characteristic is being queer. Second qualifying characteristic is being in community and like actually a part of the community, like not, you know, down low or, you know, straight passing and like taking up all this privilege and like never giving back to the community kind of thing. I feel like it depends on like the work that you do for the community.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think all gay people are queer. Not all
Agreed.
lesbians are queer. Like, I feel like there's a difference there.
Yeah. Well, some are very culturally straight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like to be queer is also, it's not just about who you love, but it's how you resist. And there's hell a lot of lesbians even who live very heteronormative lives, as you mentioned earlier. Like, I'm the masculine, I'm the man, you're the feminine woman. And like, we're living this hetero life, essentially. That's just my personal opinion. People might disagree with that, but...
Probably will.
They absolutely will, but that's my opinion.
I think for me, the only reason I feel like culturally queer could exist for some people is it being such a broad term and it being really just about like resisting the norms of society. And I feel like you could be a straight and cisgendered person while still resisting these norms. We feel hard now.
Yeah, no.
It's okay.
I mean, yes, but also ally.
Yeah.
Ally. What is... I have another feeling on. Like, I don't even believe in allies at this point.
No?
What do you mean?
I don't know. They've just disappointed. Y'all have
End of Pride
disappointed
Month
me.
and I'm mad.
No, honestly, they just disappoint me. Like, every time I'm like, oh, someone's such a strong ally, then they do some stupid shit. And I'm just like, I'm so over it. So that's just me. I'm tired of allies. I'm over it.
What kind of shit you seen?
Yeah.
I've seen too much. I feel the allies are the most difficult people to educate because they feel like they already know. It's the same with like, if, you know, we've talked about like whiteness or whatever, and the ones who are like, I am not racist, like I have black friends, whatever, those are the ones who are the hardest to correct if they say something that's like a microaggression or whatever, because they have this sense of like, I have done all this research, I've done all this work on myself, so if you're telling me that I'm doing something that goes against everything I believe in, like they feel so offended. So I feel like they are almost like some of the least open people when it comes to that. I'm talking to someone who's an ally or whatever, and they say something, and like I want to correct them. I'm like, hey, that was pretty insensitive. Or like, hey, that was transphobic. And like they just get super pissed off.
I think that goes against the idea of being an ally. Like I think
For
being
sure.
an ally is like you're willing to let down your own ego and this idea that you know everything because you fucking don't.
Yeah.
And you need to be understand. Like everyone is human. We're all gonna make mistakes. Like whoever you are, you might make a mistake at a single point in time. But you need to be open to hearing someone's feedback.
Absolutely.
You should always be there willing to learn at every point, I think.
Yeah, and I think just doing that takes away the good ally card.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's super. I'm sure there's so many people listening who are like, "Yep, I've had that exact same experience." Not all of them. Some of y'all are cool, okay?
Yeah.
But that's just my personal opinion at this point because I'm like, I just have trust issues at this point.
And that also is part of the allyship, is understanding that someone isn't going to welcome you in
Yes.
immediately, and you need to be okay with that, and like be okay with the fact that you're going to have to like prove yourself as a trusted person in this space.
So then, are lesbian trust issues warranted towards bisexuals?
Ooh,
Very
wow. Let me
interesting
think.
question there.
I mean, I think yes and no. Like, I think it depends on the individual, like, experience with each person. Because I think some people are really untrustworthy and some people aren't actually being true to who they say they are. That kind of has created them all to have a bad name. I personally don't see it that way. I think, like, each person that say is like bisexual, like my own personal experience with them, I'm going to like base it off of that, like how trustworthy they are as just a human. I just don't think I would keep it like as like because a couple of them have lied and like, you know, now all of them are just like can't trust none of them.
People will dislike my genuine answer, I feel, because like I do have like a caution or awareness around bisexuality, but it doesn't necessarily deter me from getting to know people,
Right.
from like building relationships with them, from dating them. It's just more of like a okay, no, it's fine.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like but it's still like that initial like fear.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a fear that a lot of like lesbians share. I just try to get past it so that it doesn't like hold me back from building like really
sure,
great
for sure.
connections.
That makes sense.
There's certain red flags you can look out for, you know? I think there's the classic bisexual who's in a relationship with a man and she's allowed to go and explore, but only with women. And
That one is quite
Yeah, that is a classic one for sure.
I think if you see signs of someone who is like diminishing what a connection with a woman is, you know, like these are not equal relationships. Like that is a red flag to me if I'm
Yeah.
dating someone
Absolutely.
and they're seeing this as just like a plaything
Yeah.
or just someone
Right.
to explore. It's like, no, I'm a full human being. And this could be the same thing as what you have with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the fact that he's only comfortable with you doing this with women is kind of weird to me. Especially
Yeah.
when I'm not a woman.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
That
and
is a
I'm
red
like, that
flag.
also like icks me
Yes.
out in that way too.
100%.
Yeah, it's
I don't
pretty
know.
icky.
I
Yeah.
also feel like some lesbians also need to unpack what is their own trauma of the thing that you're mentioning with men is like this idea of, oh my God, she immediately went and dated a man right after me. It's like, well, that's bisexuality. It's a lottery. She could have fallen for whoever,
No, yeah,
really.
literally.
It's like
It's the role of
you were
the-
dating a bisexual and then a bisexual went and did a bisexual thing. What? Like, I don't know.
They're literally being who they are.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
I can understand if you're having this trouble, this like femme presenting person told you they're a lesbian, but now they're identifying as a bisexual, and it feels like a bit of a betrayal. It might be some stuff that you need to work on by yourself as well, some internal shit.
Absolutely.
Because then you just start projecting it on like every other person after that. Because you're like, oh, well, they did me so dirty. So like, what are you about to do to me? You know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's, I
And
think.
was it that dirty? Like, would you still be upset if they were just like with another
Yeah.
woman? You know what I mean? It's like maybe you're just
Yeah.
hurt because the relationship.
Or a lot of
ended.
people do that with zodiac signs too. They have like
Yeah.
a bad experience with like a Leo or something. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, Leos are terrible. It's like
Yeah.
very same mentality almost. Yeah.
If that person fell for another woman, then you'd be like, oh, but like I'm perfectly fine. They just like this other person based on whatever. If that person falls for a man now, it's like, well, it's you never liked me to begin with.
It was all
Yeah,
fake.
you only like
Yeah.
men. Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
pretending. You're just exploring yourself. It's like, no,
Yeah.
that relationship was actually really real, and now you're the one that's diminishing it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
and I think you have to like
Yeah.
take accountability for
Yeah.
maybe the way that the relationship went, rather than writing it off as like, oh, you just never liked me.
Yeah.
You know,
And I feel like
100%.
it can be painful, especially if you see that person go and then settle down and have children in a very
Right.
traditional way. And maybe that is like a hurt spot for you to explore of like, oh, this isn't something that I can
Yeah.
access
Yeah.
in this
Right.
very
Yeah. But
traditional
that's your
way.
own
It's like
stuff to
we have so
unpack.
many
Yeah.
barriers,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
for sure.
that does suck. And that is painful, but it isn't on that person
100%.
per se.
I agree.
I'd love for like people in the comments to share why they feel that way because I actually like I don't fully understand it. was a lesbian for like what, I don't know. I was gonna say 2 seconds, but it was like a couple years. It was a pretty solid amount of time. But I didn't have that trauma. So like I don't have that association. So I would never feel that way. But I haven't been out for that long. So like I haven't had time to really build up those feelings. So I genuinely would like to know why. Like where does that come from? Like unpack it for real and let us know. Cause
I like it's like a personal insecurity.
Yeah,
like
but
I think
why?
Yeah, I don't know.
what
I mean, because
is
like
it?
I've dated bisexuals like when I was also like under the like lesbian identity, and like I never felt threatened by like who they would date after me or before me or whatever, or like how many men they dated previously or anything like that. Like it was more of just like I always had just focused and felt confident on like whatever I had with them. And I also just like am the type of person to feel like whatever I have with somebody is not going to be comparable to like anybody else. Not that it's like better, but it's like your personal your personal relationships are always going to be like separate from everybody else. You know what I mean? So like I've always had that mindset. So I think I've never struggled with like this like I'm threatened or this is like triggering insecurities that I can't provide something that they're getting somewhere else. Like I know if it didn't work out, it's like forever whatever things I need to like learn about myself and work on. And like I think it's more of just like a mentality that you have to kind of just like develop over time with like growth.
Can I be honest with you?
Please do.
I'm so sick and tired of these dates that feel like job interviews. In 2025, we deserve a space where we can show up just as we are, ready to meet other people just as they are. So lucky for you, on Field, you have the breathing room to explore your desires. Think open relationships, cuddling, being a brat, and find communities that share your interests. Think D&D, tennis, zine making. Free from ads and completely independent, this is the place that draws curious, playful, and open-minded people, the ones that you have been looking for. So if you're feeling curious, there's a little preview of what dating on Field has been like for Emily.
Field is the only dating app where I don't have to hide parts of myself. As someone who's both kinky and polyamorous, most platforms make dating feel like a job. Shifting through profiles, decoding vague bios, embracing myself for the moment I have to explain my relationship structure, unsure of how it'll land. But here, transparency isn't just welcomed, it's expected. It's built into the culture. I can lay everything out in my bio, no pretense, no softening, no waiting for the right moment to disclose. And the best part, I know I won't just be tolerated for it, I'll be celebrated. There's something liberating about not having to ease someone into who you are, whether it's naming the dynamics that make you feel most at home or exploring desires that might be too much elsewhere. Field creates space for honesty from the start. It means no second guessing, no unnecessary filtering, just a place to show up as yourself and trust that you'll be met there.
So get out your phone, go to the App Store or Google Play and download Field. That is FEELD. Thank you, Field, for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, I'm going to take y'all through the history of the word queer. And feel free to interrupt at any point in time if you have something to say. So I want to start with the etymology of the word queer, which is the origins. So the word queer first appeared in the English language in the early 1500s. And back then, it didn't have anything to do with sexuality or gender. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, it originally meant strange, peculiar, odd, or eccentric. The origins of the word likely come from the German word queer, which means oblique, off-center, or askew. In fact, in German, queerdenken means to think differently or think outside the box. Queer in 1595 might have been used to describe a crooked picture frame, a weird little noise, or even someone acting in a way society found strange. By the late 19th century, that strangeness began to take on a human target. So by the late 1800s, queer began to shift from just meaning odd or unusual to being a slur for men who were perceived as effeminate or homosexual.
Why just men?
I don't know, but so much of this, like the target was mainly on men. And I think that you still see the legacy of that today where it's like a lot of men feel more closeted, especially bisexual men aren't as open to exploring their sexuality. Whereas a lot of women, it's like more accepted because of the male gaze, I feel, you know? So the source here is the UK National Archives because a lot of the history is super white, like Tyra was saying. It's like this word really came from the UK. So introducing Oscar Wilde, renowned poet and playwright.
The UK?
Yeah, the UK.
The white machine.
The white machine.
Okay.
So introducing Oscar Wilde, renowned poet and playwright, who in 1895 was at the height of fame and success. He was also up to a lot of gay stuff, specifically with Lord Alfred Douglas.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Wow. Story time. So, unfortunately for the two of them, the Lord's father, the Marquis of Queensberry, discovered their relationship and sent Wilde a very angry letter detailing his disgust at their relationship and calling Wilde a sodomite.
What
Which
is a sodomite?
Religious talk, meaning he does a lot of gay butt stuff.
Sodomize means like anal penetration.
Yeah.
Sodomite.
Yeah. So at this time, Wilde made a very fateful decision to prosecute the Marquis. He not only lost the trial, but he himself was put on trial for gross indecency and sentenced to 2 years hard labor, which was the max sentence allowed and was considered very excessive for someone of his like wealth and stature of the time because he was very famous.
How hard is this labor?
I think it was pretty bad. Like he got sick in these camps and everything.
Oh, wow.
Like it was actually, it was like pretty serious. Yeah. Like getting a gross indecency charge of that type at the time was really bad. But during the initial infamous 1895 trial of Oscar Wilde, the letter from the Marquis of Queensberry was read aloud in court, in which he refers to Wilde and other homosexual men of the time as, quote, snob queers. According to the National Archives, this is the first documented use of the word queer as a homosexual slur. So it definitely wasn't the first time it was being used. It was clearly like in public knowledge of the time, but because of the height and like fame of this trial, it was like very popularized. In particular, American newspapers picked up on the Queensberry's use of the word and adopted it himself. So this also spread it into America. So this trial made Oscar Wilde the premier homosexual, establishing the public image of what it meant to be a gay man. So this was actually like a pretty big deal.
Premier.
This was like, it kind of created
intense.
the stereotype.
Like we have premieres in Canada.
Yeah. But it like really created the stereotype.
I want to be the premier homosexual.
Right? It's like kind of, it sounds good now. Yeah. But he was the very picture of what a stereotypical gay man became. Effeminate, artistic, witty, eccentric, and lavishly dressed, but also a threat to masculinity and heterosexuality. So,
Didn't they wear dresses back then? He was a
Like
threat to
wigs.
masculinity.
I mean, they wore a lot of wigs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, makeup. Yeah.
I don't know what kind of masculinity he was a threat to, but
I'm confused.
I feel like
They were
they looked
playing around a lot.
feminine back then. Like they really did.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the courtrooms. Like I was like, what?
Yeah.
They're all in drag. Like what's happening?
So in her landmark book, A Critical Introduction to Queer Theory, published in 2001, Nikki Sullivan writes, quote, queer was used as a means of pathologizing and policing gender and sexual nonconformity, positioning it as something to be corrected or punished. The Concise New Patriot Dictionary of Slang in 1937 notes that it wasn't until 1914 that queer, a derogatory adjective meaning homosexual, was being used more commonly in society. At this time, queer was a weaponized word, hurled at LGBTQ plus people to shame and isolate them. For decades, it was.
Just imagine hurdle. You're like,
Yeah.
queer.
I know.
Like,
I'm trying to be dramatic over here.
hurdled.
Yeah. For decades, it was often associated with bullying, violence, and societal rejection. Considering its evidently offensive and degrading origins, many people dislike the term, especially people who are older in the community don't really enjoy it. Because it has negative connotations. We definitely have people come up to us where like maybe we're bringing up the fact that we run Queer Collective and they feel confused about that. Mm-hmm. Like it still is definitely confusing for older people. However, the same 1937 dictionary cited earlier also notes that while queer was usually used as a derogatory term, it is also a homosexual term of self-reference within the gay underground subculture. It was derogatory from the outside, but not from within, and that's been happening since at least 1914. In a 1934 letter held at the National Archive that was discovered following a bathhouse rave, we see evidence of the writer Cyril Coeur de Lion using queer as a form of self-identification. I'm going to read you all the letter because it's kind of funny. Okay. My dear Billy, just a note to say that I'm very disappointed about you. I honestly thought that you were queer, but different from the others, and I liked you very much. I didn't intend coming to the club last night, only I felt that I must see you. I've only been queer since I came to London about 2 years ago. Before then, I knew nothing about it. And I told you I'm married and have a little girl 2 years of age, and I still like girls occasionally. Therefore, there are very few boys with whom I want to have an affair with. I like them all as friends, but nothing anything more. I have a boy staying with me who is really my affair. We have been together now since I came to town, and I like him very much. And I think he is a better pal to me than any woman could. Although sometimes I wish that I was still normal, as queer people are very temperamental and dissatisfied. I honestly hope to have an affair with you, Billy, and I shall only come to the club to see you. Well, it is now 10 p.m. and I have to just get out of bed, so I must close down and have a bath and dress, and hope that you will excuse me telling you all of this. As I say, I like you very much, and I feel like I can talk to you like this. Please be a dear boy and destroy this note. He clearly didn't destroy the note. And do not mention it to anyone, as this is just between you and I. I shall look forward to seeing you in a couple of hours. Until then, your very sincere friend.
That's funny.
It's like a really chaotic mind dump.
It does.
But it shows that like he is calling himself, and this was happening, like you said, white people in London using this as a term of self-reference, at least in 1937. So this wasn't an isolated use. Other documents obtained in similar raids across London also show people using queer as a self-identifier within the community. Surreal's use of queer to describe his sexuality is surprisingly and arguably modern, though, for the time, because it wasn't until 4 decades later that in the 1980s to 2000s, when activists and community groups were reclaiming the word queer. So this is kind of the history that you were talking about, where it became a lot more popular. Examples: in 1990, American HIV/AIDS activists, which were formerly known as ACT UP, became Queer Nation. And one of their first slogans was, "We're here, we're queer, get used to it." For many, this was the first time they seen queer reclaimed as a banner of pride, not shame. Do we think there's power in reclamation?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
You're taking something that somebody threw at you in like a negative, derogatory way, and you're like, actually, thank you. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like now these words that you're throwing at me can't hurt me anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's a quote from the Queer Nation Manifesto in 1990. Quote, "Using queer is a way of reminding us of how we're perceived by the rest of the world. It is a way of telling ourselves we don't have to be afraid of our differences. We don't have to be invisible. The very word that once hurt us is now ours." In David Halpern's 1995 book, Saint Foucault, people might get mad at me for that pronunciation because he's kind of famous. He writes, quote, "Queer is by definition whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant." We also saw the term becoming increasingly more commonplace in pop culture. In 1999, Queer as Folk aired on mainstream television in the UK, and Queer Eye aired in 2003 on mainstream US television.
True.
And queer theory is born. While the streets were chanting, "We're here, we're queer," academia was also taking notice. The 1990s saw the rise of queer theory, a field of scholarship that changed rigid categories of gender and sexuality. Judith Butler, the conservatives' #1 target and hate woman, wrote Gender Trouble in 1990, which became a foundational text. She argued that gender isn't something you are, but something you do, a performance. Queer theory influenced Michael Foucault, Eve Sedgwick, and others who demonstrated the idea of stable identities altogether. Queer wasn't just an identity anymore. It became a tool, a lens, a way of questioning norms, binaries, and power structures, which is kind of what we've been doing in this conversation. Thanks to all these people. Sullivan writes, "Queer theory is not about who we are, but about how we resist the regimes that tell us who we're supposed to be. Today, queer is embraced by many, but not by all. For some, especially older queer folks, like I said, who grew up hearing it as a slur, the word still stings." But now I want to continue discussion. I'm wondering how y'all have seen the word evolve in front of our eyes throughout the 2010s to the 2020s.
The term queer, it also, I think it could depend on the areas you grow up in the world.
For sure.
But it wasn't a term that I really heard much. It was more like the F slur. When I started hearing it more, it was already reclaimed. So it wasn't a common one that I would hear people use as a slur. Like when I was like younger, it was always used in more of like a positive, like queer people were using it themselves.
It was definitely introduced to me as an umbrella term.
Yeah.
Just given our age, I think that's probably the way a lot of us saw it. I think you'd have to be much older to have seen it be a slur.
Yeah.
But I think the way that I've seen it evolve probably is the way that y'all are using it.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it going from being this umbrella term, but you still have these other labels underneath it. It's like, no, this is it. Like, this is just what it is.
Right.
It's
for sure.
it's my only term.
I never had any of the experiences with like any derogatory terms being used toward me. And I think that's also the like women femme experience compared to men and more masculine presenting people. Again, like we have different experiences with how we present to the world, and even you dating more masculine presenting people and like getting hate for that, but not necessarily for like being with someone like me, you know what I mean? But because of like what you mentioned about masculinity and how like masculinity is so much more rigid than femininity is, which is why to this day like people will use the word gay as an insult. And I know a lot of lesbians who still call themselves gay because they just don't feel comfortable with the word itself.
Why?
Really?
I don't know. It's just for some reason they just don't feel comfy with the word. Again, people in the comments.
Yeah, I've come across a couple people too that felt that way.
And they only say gay for some reason.
Yeah.
Have they told you why?
I never asked. Yeah, but
I feel like I remember my first ex saying this, and I'm trying to remember what she would say about it. I think it was that it feels connected to lesbian porn and this like fake, like
performative thing,
performative version.
Yeah,
right.
Which like if you actually know the history of lesbian identity, it's not bad.
No,
you
not
know,
at all,
I think that was like a very like baby gay perception of it.
Yeah.
You know, because lesbian actually has like a really political dope history.
And maybe they didn't
You
have
know?
enough knowledge of like the full term of the word. Yeah.
For sure.
No, that makes sense because lesbians are very much fetishized.
Yeah.
Which is why people are okay with like two femmes being together. People are like super cool, but two masc presenting people, they're like,
that's weird.
That's
That was actually my
You are
next
going to be
question.
sexualized though in a way that you don't want to be as two femmes together for sure.
Of course, you're fetishized. That's why people are okay with it.
But it's even in the lesbian community. They're like two masks amongst lesbians will be like, oh, like what? Why are you doing
like,
that?
It's weird.
Like, why?
Too gay.
That's
It's
weird.
too gay.
Yeah.
It's too gay. But two femmes, you don't question it.
Yeah.
Why is it that even lesbians are against it or?
I feel like it just falls into like the like the traditional like that programming of like it needs to be, there needs to be a balance of masculine and feminine energy visibly, because like I present masc, but like there's so much of me that's like really leans more to femme, like energy wise, and like just like my mannerisms or the way I carry myself, and like that's why it's also been like nice to also date other masculine people too, because it like those parts were complemented, 100%. But it's not visibly like seen unless like you're sitting in a room with me and you're seeing the way like we naturally interact, you know. So I think that it's like maybe it's more of a visual thing, and it's just like society has taught us we need to see this and this needs to be like represented in all relationships, or else it just seems like off or weird or not right, or I don't know. I could be wrong though. That's just like maybe my assumption.
Our brains naturally want to categorize people to understand them. You know, we want to put people in boxes, and the only way that you're able to do that is through the labels and terms that we've been taught to understand.
But do we see that same sort of scrutiny happen with gay men? Two gay men together that are like more masculine presenting. Do you question it? Like, does there have to be a more feminine man?
I don't think
feel like they
not as much.
Yeah,
not as
they
much.
get as much.
I think it's actually more celebrated that both of you are passing. You know, it's like, oh, you're doing masculinity right. Actually, that's celebrated.
Right.
That's insane.
I mean, like, there's already a masculine and a masculine. If you present in a way that like people perceive you as a man, once you get there, like that's kind of like the worst of the worst in terms of like how society views masculinity. So like there is no need to necessarily look for who's the feminine and who's the masculine dynamic, because it's already like, okay, you're already doing the weird thing. But with women and femmes, there is more of that, like you're just searching for where is the masculine. You need to have a masculine at all times, and without one, there's a problem.
Because
You're
of
doing it
femphobia.
wrong. Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
that
with men,
people-
like they don't have that same experience.
Yeah, sorry. No, I would have people come up to me and be like, "So who wears the pants in the relationship?"
Exactly.
Like if I was dating another
'Cause
masked
they need to
person,
categorize you.
yeah,
They
and they
need, like,
wanted
for
to know
some
like
reason, they're
who's
being
more
so
masculine
rude.
out of the two of us, and I'm just like so ridiculous. Yeah, so I definitely think it's like they just need to have that understanding to feel better to accept it. Like they're just like, in order for me to accept this, I need to feel like there's like both representations happening equally or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and people are very mad the way that you said about non-binary people, because it's like,
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
There isn't one. Let it go.
Right?
Exactly.
Can we just exist?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like people have a
We
very,
were-
very concrete understanding of masculinity and femininity.
Yeah.
And it's all the basic stereotypical things, like having short hair versus longer hair. Like people will immediately put you into those boxes with a quick scan of like, okay, you have your nails done, you don't, you're the more masculine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were walking like around on Sunday, and someone was walking by us and was like, they really specified, like they really needed to emphasize the they. They were like, they look so good. And then like their whole friend group was walking by and they're like, oh my God, both of them. Yeah. Oh, they look so good. But as soon as they said they, I mean, they were looking toward me. So I was like, they? Are you talking about me? And I was like, no, they're probably talking about that, most likely. And I was just like, damn.
I think it was you.
I wanted to
It could have been you.
It could have been me.
So you want somebody to walk down the street and be like, what's up, bro?
Yeah, like anybody watching,
Call me boss.
You see me walking down the street, throwing a little he/him. They them is cute too. Mistake me for a guy, like. Yeah, it's not gonna happen, but I wanted to.
I called them my boyfriend after, and they were like, "I love that."
Thank you so much.
That's the thing is like it's the people around you who care about you who will do that for you, you know, and like those are the things that you need to rely on is your friends, your queer friends who actually see you that way.
Yeah.
You know, and like who gives a fuck what society thinks? We already don't give a fuck.
That's the thing. I mean, we say that, but it's so hard to feel it. Like I preach about this all the time, and then I'm like, damn, why do I want so badly to present in a certain way for other people to perceive me, to almost affirm how I feel? I'm like, why? I don't need that. But at the same time, I'm like, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice. Like that gender euphoric feeling is something that I don't think I've had yet, where I'm just like, oh my goodness. But like I know obviously you've had that experience where you're just like, you know.
One time I went to Cruise and Tangos
Yeah.
shortly after my top surgery, and there was like a gay guy there that totally thought I was a guy and was like flirting with me and having like a full-on conversation with me for like at least like an hour, and I was loving it. I was like, this is so like fun. And like we spent a whole like night just like getting to know each other. Like I told them after, but it was like really, I think it was just really affirming because it was shortly after my top surgery. So I was like, oh wow, like I can be perceived like in so many different ways at this point, you know, and it's like, it feels like genuine. So it doesn't feel like I'm just like internally only feeling this way. So I know, like I can understand what you're saying, like how like sometimes you just want like the world to also see you that way too.
I have a heavy flow, and it's actually super annoying when I go to bed with a tampon in or a Diva cup and I wake up to a bloody mess because it's leaked everywhere. Now, period underwear like Isle has actually been such a huge game changer for me because now I can get a restful sleep and wake up without any mess.
Today's episode is brought to you by Isle, the original period underwear company. Proudly queer-owned, Isle has been leading the way in sustainable period care since 1993, redefining what period products can do for you and the planet for nearly 3 decades.
Let's talk about their Boost Boxer. Now, this is a period underwear like you've never experienced before. The Boost Boxer is a reliable, comfortable, and inclusive style option for everybody. Yes, every body. Whether you're on the go, working from home, or looking for overnight protection that you can count on, this boxer brief is designed to move with you.
So what makes it so special, you might ask? First, it's made with sustainable fabrics that are breathable and leak-proof, so you stay comfortable and dry all day long. It's made for the heaviest of flows. The leak-proof gusset is sewn from the front of the waistband all the way to the back, while the removable boost liner lets you customize your absorbency level, giving you extra protection when you need it most. And unlike some other reusable period products, the Boost Boxer is PFAS-free and designed to keep you feeling fresh with no leaks.
And as if the underwear wasn't good enough, another reason why we love Isle so much is because they are a certified B Corp. That means that they're held to some of the highest standards for social and environmental responsibility. It's period care that you can feel good about, literally and figuratively.
So why settle for less when you can have it all? Inclusive styles, comfort, sustainability, and performance. Head to periodisle.com and use code QueerCollective for 15% off. Isle, sustainable period products for every body.
Thank you, Isle, for sponsoring this episode.
What does it mean to you to be genderqueer?
I don't know, just outside of the binary. It's pretty much the same definition as non-binary. I just feel like it aligned more with me because, again, I was starting to feel like this imposter syndrome of, you know, I can't be non-binary if I'm not androgynous, which is stupid, by the way, for anyone. Like, false. That's not true. But it's hard to shake that feeling. So, I don't know. I think it just means to exist outside of the gender binary and to just be like this entity, this essence that, you know, doesn't conform to any of the bullshit.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This non-gendered blob.
Exactly.
Of beautiful, radiant essence. Yeah.
Literally that
is my gender.
Write that down.
No, I think just like being unapologetically yourself, living in your truth like fully, and without any need to explain yourself to anybody. And like I think also just the reclamation of like freedom, joy, and your identity, period. You know, like all of that, I think it really truly just represents like just being queer and like being who you are.
It's also how you resist as well.
Yeah.
Like that's why I feel like you can't be culturally queer. There's certain things that you don't have to fight against every single day. There's certain oppressions and microaggressions that you just don't have to move through every day.
Yeah.
Whereas to be queer, that's why not all, gay people are queer, because it's about how you fight against the norms. And you have to do that every single day, all the time. It's always being thrown at you, and you have to consistently do the work. Yeah. Some people don't do the work, and that's fine for them. Some people don't want to. Some people don't even recognize that they have to do the work. So, yeah, it is about who you love, how you present, but it really is also how you resist and how you fight against all of the cultural norms.
What about you guys? What do you think?
I feel non-binary. I don't feel genderqueer. I just haven't even considered genderqueer, to be fair.
It means it doesn't mean
feel
the
like
same
it's the
thing
same
to you.
thing.
Does why?
I don't know.
Yeah, why? Yeah, why did you choose that over queer, non-binary over gender?
I think non-binary is just more popular.
Honestly,
to be quite frank.
Like you hear it more.
Yeah, like I'm just like,
Yeah.
I just honestly, I hadn't really heard many people, like I knew it existed. I just haven't, there's so many micro labels.
Yeah. No,
You know
there
what I
really
mean?
is.
There's literally,
Yes.
you could micro define everything.
No,
like,
when they
even
said
just
it was the first time.
percentage of attraction you have towards men, you could define that with a specific term.
Yeah.
You know, but it gets exhausting at a certain point. And I think that is why people have adopted queer as a gender and sexuality label, is like, man, we're exhausted.
Yeah.
It's kind of gets a little tiring sometimes. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to explain myself to anyone. And I do want the fluidity. Like you see people like JoJo Siwa, like Fletcher, who are being like absolutely roasted. And it's like, actually, I want the freedom to just make a day-to-day decision.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it does feel different.
Yeah.
Day-to-day, month-to-month,
100%.
year-to-year. And I don't always want to have to change that definition to people. I think even me, I was identifying as a lesbian for like over 6 years. And now I'm like in a weird place where I'm like thinking about coming out as bisexual to my grandma. And I'm like, oh, I just did all the work of coming out as lesbian to her. And like,
Yeah.
whereas like queer,
Yeah.
you don't say anything.
There we go.
Right.
You don't gotta say anything. I
That
bring
makes
home
sense.
whoever I want.
First of all, it's been beautiful to see your journey. The first time we met you, we were both in different places, and now we're like,
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah, I do get very much like the imposter syndrome you're speaking about, though. I've been feeling that like the last few months for sure. 100%. Yeah,
There's probably so many of
feel
us
that.
who feel that, because like
I feel that.
it's the representation that we see.
Yeah.
Whenever we see someone who's non-binary, like in an ad or in a show, they're
Yeah.
always androgynous and like have a short haircut or whatever.
And a lot of the
always.
time it leans
Yeah.
trans sometimes too.
Yes.
Like they're
Yeah.
grouped together. Like non-binary is a trans identity, and sometimes I feel imposter syndrome with the transness, you know? Like I don't
Yes.
necessarily feel trans, but I know I'm not cisgender if I'm non-binary. So that part gets
Ooh, are you trying to have a
Yeah.
controversy right now? Because that is a huge
Yeah.
like debate of like,
Yeah.
are non-binary people trans?
No,
Yeah.
I don't even think I fully felt comfortable like claiming myself as trans either, even though like, cause I never got top surgery with the intention to transition fully. So for me, I was just like, okay, like that's still a different experience than like what, fully transitioning would be like. So I feel like I have a connection to the community in a different way, to the trans community in a different way, but I don't think I would fully be like, yes, I'm trans,
But that's where I get to thinking, I'm like, can it be like cis, trans, non-binary? Because not everyone feels trans, but it is under the trans umbrella, technically.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Again, technically.
Technically.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to involve myself into this debate because again, like I'm not fighting to claim the trans label because I understand that there is a certain level of oppression that comes with that I do not face. What do you feel? Has anything changed since our last conversation, like identity wise?
No, actually, I feel like
Circled back.
I feel like I circled back harder than ever because like I've had conversations like with bisexuals to the point where it got me interested, and I'm like, maybe I could be a little bit bisexual. And then
You're having fun over there.
yeah, look like you're having a good time. Let me get over there. But like, the more that I like feel into it and like try to figure myself out and everything, like the more that I'm like, no, I'm a lesbian, and like the more that I feel secure in the label, and I get non-binary all the time. I don't know if it's like a presenting thing or if it's like an energy thing or both.
Yeah.
Which like I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But also, I do like the connection to womanhood as well.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not necessarily about getting out of the woman box, but rather expanding the woman box.
Yeah.
And if you say like woman is this, and I'm like, but I'm this, and I am a woman. So what you gonna do about it?
No, I feel the same way, 100%.
I have
Yeah.
a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, how do I say this? Okay, so you know how there's men, straight men, who
Yeah.
will date bisexual, non-binary, femme-presenting people.
Yeah.
I've always been a bit confused by that because I'm like, if you're straight and
Right.
you date women, do you see your partner as a woman?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for lesbians, if you're dating a non-binary person, like for the lesbians who believe that like lesbian means woman who's attracted to women, do you think that they just inherently see their partner as a woman even though they're non-binary?
I think,
Probably. Probably.
you think?
Quite possibly.
But I feel like they're the kind of people who would be adhering to the expansive definition of the word lesbian, you know?
But not all of them do. Like some of them really are like it's women loving women.
But they're dating a non-binary
dating a
person.
non-binary
You know, who is
person.
this? You know them?
There's so many.
I want their name.
I mean, like, I'm non-binary, but I still feel a very strong attachment to my womanhood and, like, my femininity. And, like, I express that unapologetically in any way I want. You know, like, I'll wear thongs or, like, I'll express that through my clothing, my mannerisms, like, things I say, like, you know. So even me having top surgery, like, didn't subtract anything from my femininity, my mind, and my body, you know? So, like...
You just wanted to
I
not
just
wear
wanted them.
like titty
I just wanted to be
prisons.
free in my body, you know, and I felt like they were like literal like weights just weighing me down, and I'm like, I don't like, I have no attachment to them, and it was literally programmed in my mind to have an attachment to them because of how sexualized they were, and I thought that was like something that pleased partners, you know, and it did for a long time because they were great, but like they weren't great for me. Yeah, they were great, but like so I'm just like, I don't see a problem with being non-binary and still claiming that you're a lesbian as well, personally, but like like obviously everyone has their strong opinions on it, but that's just mine.
Yeah, I feel like that is an experience that a lot of other people have where like they'll be with a partner at first and then they'll start to transition. Yeah. And then there's that conversation within yourself where you have to think about like, I'm a lesbian, for example. Let's say you're dating someone who was also a woman and a lesbian, and then they fully transition and now they're a trans masc, or like they're fully like a trans man.
Does your
now.
attraction change?
Does your attraction change?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Depends on the person, but possibly it does.
Yeah.
Certain connections, it wouldn't matter to me what a certain individual changes or looks
Yeah.
like. Like, I think some people, you age throughout a relationship. If you think about it, like you change your appearance so drastically no matter what, even if you aren't going through like a gender transition, and like you agree to love this person because you love their insides, you know?
The beginning of the conversation when you were like, lesbians are afraid that man can give them something that a woman can't, and I'm like, you can just buy it.
Yeah.
And also, you can give them something that a man cannot.
Yeah.
That's
Emotional
so
connection.
true. Oh shit!
Period.
Damn.
You can make them feel sexually safe. Like, sorry.
No, literally.
Actual real orgasm.
I think it's really, that whole argument is so diminishing.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Is there anything more that we want to say on these topics before we wrap it up?
I feel like I've said too much.
You're great.
Yeah.
You're great.
Okay,
I'm
that's
gonna
good.
say things regardless. That's the thing. Like that's what I've learned is that like even if I feel like I have the most perfectly curated take, people will still have an issue with it. So I'm like, honestly,
Fuck it.
let me just speak authentically. Like this is what's real for me, and that's just a me thing. It doesn't mean that it's like I say this and now it's applied to everyone. People love to say like, you're saying I'm not allowed to do this or I can't say this, and I'm like, no,
And they
what?
personalize it so
Like
much.
who even are you? Like
Yeah.
I don't know you. I don't know you.
No, literally.
I
Like,
have no authority over your life.
I don't know that man.
Since when do I run your life? I don't understand.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's why I get like weirded out when people are like, no, Fletcher or JoJo. How could they?
So
and I'm like,
passionate.
do you date them?
Yeah.
Do you date them?
Do you know that?
We'll never
Have you ever met this person?
Nope.
So that is a great place to end it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
But-
Fucks given.
Zero fucks given. But before we wrap it up, what have the both of you got going on? Where can people find you?
For me, I will continue to always be DJing. So pretty much all the queer events in the community, I'm usually on a lot of them. So just any upcoming like queer events. And then
What's your handle?
King Charming King period Charming 9. And then for my barber studio, King's Cuts, that's located in Mississauga. So I give like gender affirming cuts, like cuts to all different hair textures. And yeah, so that would be King's Cuts 99. King's Cuts 99.
You can find me on Instagram at Tyra Blizz, 2 Zs. And then on TikTok, T Blizzy, 2 Zs again. And yeah, I mean, everything's in my bio. Also, follow In Magazine CA for all your queer and gay news.
So that's everything that we have for you today. And if you want to dive deeper into your gender and sexuality journey, we have another episode with Tyra called Are You Straight or Is It Compulsory Heterosexuality? Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, make sure to leave us a 5-star review because it really does help the podcast out. That's everything that we got. And until next time, peace.